Salam wins. Sorry I'm late. I had to visit a friend's. She fractured. I'm gonna say broke, fractured her leg. Regardless of the case, she got injured, and so I had to visit her before I got on stream. How was your Monday, everyone? I did. You said episode 4 was probably the best one, right? Yeah, she did it while climbing. She jumped from the very top, and, well, it didn't really work out. Let's see it. Yo, Gotham! Wonderful, man. Thank you so much. Yes. Yes. Okay. Gotham, how have you been, man? Gotham here since day one, bro. Doing good? What you been up to? Worst anime of the year? Wow, exams for what? You know, I still have to play Wukong, huh? I should put my time into that. Okay. Let's see what's happening. Okay, let's see. What is this?
Come back here! Hasanori! Stop right there!
I can't run any further.
Yoriko, you little twerp! How many times is it gonna take to beat some sense into you? Come back here! Hasanori!
You know, it's funny, because, like, where are they gonna run? Of course, we don't know the story, but is this the type of anime that was released? No. Episode 1 production, citing animation, cost, value. Do you think it's the type of animation that they want to do? What's up, Matt? Yeah, dog. I wish the success. Dog. Hot diggity dog. Oh, you see the cats? Yeah. What's up, Adrian? I think Mia is about to attack her right about now. Where is Mia? Oh, no. Mia's on my bed. Just kidding. Yeah, this is weird. I guess clearly they didn't choose to have, they didn't choose this animation. Let's see. The suggestions, though. My goodness, 16
Michael Bay's
minutes?
movies are often disguised as something else. I've heard theories that Sean Connery's character in The Rock is actually an older James Bond.
You want to see that one? Okay. Guess the Lebanese. You know what, Wins? We still didn't finish that one, huh? Well, no, we did. We did guess the country. But we didn't do guess the Yemeni. Yes. Okay, this one has to be... We'll do it on Thursday. We will do this one on Thursday for sure. Doo-doo-doo. Ooh. Look. It's your mommy. The penguin... Interesting. What am I gotta watch Penguin? Is that what you're trying to tell me? It's so funny because you were the first 3 episodes you're like, what the F is this? And now you're like, bro, this is a masterpiece. Is that what you're trying to tell me, bro? Alright, well, let's tell everyone that I'm live. Come hither. Pa. Pa pa pa. Yes, dude. Okay. So we have this suggestion here.
That the island was ripped off of 1979's Parts of the Clonus Horror, and that the Transformers movies are just crass 3-hour-long toy advertisements. And that last one I know isn't true. The Transformers movies are actually crass 3-hour-long advertisements for beer and wireless speakers. But there's one Michael Bay movie that I haven't really seen mentioned like this before. Let me know if this sounds familiar to you. In a script written by Christopher Marcus and Stephen McFeely, but adapted from an existing source, a muscle-bound hunk has to go on the run from the law, accompanied by Anthony Mackie and an Eastern European immigrant who believes she's on an honorable mission for the United States government. Along the way, they have to deal with an easily brainwashed amputee who's fresh from a long incarceration, muscle-enhancing serums, antagonists played by Academy Award-nominated veteran actors, and a man who just refuses to die. This movie...
Dang. So he's just comparing it to a Captain America movie. Dang. Not Matt calling Ren out.
2013's Pain and Gain. I don't think the parallels with Captain America: The Winter Soldier, which came out a year later, are intentional. The project was announced in 2009, a year before the first Captain America movie was even released, but the fact that the writers would spend the next decade with the character makes Pain and Gain an interesting starting point, especially since the movie's differences are a lot more interesting than their similarities. And while both...
Guys, when Endgame came out, was that what? 2019? That was like the end. That was like the end of a great era. Dang. Not Sam being attacked right now. Sam, come here. Come here, Sam. Ah, God, what a time, dude. 2019. You know, it also marks 5 years since I dislocated my elbow. Also, less than a year before I started streaming. This account... Hello? This account is now 5 years old, I believe. If we look at my stats. Also, not my cats running around in circles. Do you think it's underrated? Oh, actually. We're just about to hit 1 million views. Yeah, April 9, 2020. So we're not actually at 5 years yet. We're at 4 years. By the way, so I've been having a roller coaster of editors. My shorts editor is no longer editing my shorts. And he was doing such a phenomenal job. But he said he has to take a step back for his mental health. And I know. And I'm like, dude, your mental health? Yes. I respect it. But I need you, bro. I need you. No, dude, you guys, like, what a roller coaster of a year to go through editors. What a roller coaster of a year. Like, I'm telling you, he did such a good job. He is, like my views have been skyrocketing. Skyrocketing, bro. And it was such a game changer. And he started here. He started right here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6, 12, 18, 24, 30, 36. He only did 36 shorts. That's all he did. Oh, Mia. Anyways. So now I have to go back to edit my own videos. For now. But we'll see. So there may be more time for me, less time at this point for shorts because I gotta edit shit. I heard Joker 2 was like a musical. Did you guys watch it? What are your thoughts on it?
Both movies have their roots in something that already exists. Pain and Gain is based on the real-life Sun Gym gang's crimes in Miami during the 90s, and Captain America is based on Captain America. Both movies are significantly different enough from their source material that the thematic details are ultimately there because someone wrote them into the script on purpose. In Captain America, Steve Rogers is an all-American kid.
I need to know whose body is this? Mostly negative. I need to know, like of course it's not meant to fit his head, but this is like, it's like a floating head. If only you can see my cats right now. You can't hear them, but you can definitely see Sam is pissed. Come here. Come here, Sam. Come here. Come here. Come here. Come here. Come here. Come here. Sam is annoyed. Sam is done. Sam is like, I'm too old for this. Will I start watching Penguin now? Maybe I'll watch the first episode. But I still have a lot of reading to do. I need to finish Harry Potter 7. I still need to finish Harry Potter 7, y'all.
Kid from World War II era Brooklyn whose good heart and selfless nature were rewarded by giving him a chemically induced body to match. When we meet him in The Winter Soldier, he's put a 70-year deep freeze behind.
By the way, can I tell you something that I found out recently? That
Heart and selfless nature were rewarded by giving him a
that this scene right here, this girl, this actress, when she touched his pec,
chemically induced body to match.
Oh my god, I hate my life. I hate my life.
Chemically induced body to match.
Anyways, you saw it. When she touched his pec, that was not part of the script. That was just based out of like sheer what's the word I'm looking for? Curiosity.
When we meet him in The Winter Soldier, he's put a 70-year deep freeze behind.
Is purposely dumbing down the plot and inspiration from The Winter Soldier. I mean, I don't think he's biased to Captain America.
And is working for the extra-governmental agency S.H.I.E.L.D. on a mission to stop the hijacking of one of their satellite launch ships. Meanwhile, in Pain and Gain, our protagonist is Daniel Lugo, a lifelong bodybuilder/conman who spent 15 months in jail for defrauding senior citizens and became the manager of the Miami-based Sun Gym, tripling its customer base by offering bikini waxes and free membership to strippers. Steve Rogers is the unattainable ideal, at once perfect and humble, strong and compassionate, steadfast in his beliefs, and most importantly, never wrong. Daniel Lugo, on the other hand, is the kind of guy who thinks he's all those things. He's an idiot who claims to be a genius, a hard worker who's desperate for any shortcut he can find, and a man who's not poor, just a temporarily embarrassed millionaire. So when they're both confronted with the situation that kicks off each movie's plot, how do they respond? When Rogers first hears about S.H.I.E.L.D.'s Project Insight, a program that will allow the organization to kill anyone in the world who their algorithm predicts may become a threat, he rightly calls it out as a weapon of terror.
This isn't freedom. This is fear.
When he's told the agency has become irrevocably corrupted from within, he recognizes that it's not just the result of a few bad apples here and there, and understands that an institutional problem requires action that affects the entire institution.
S.H.I.E.L.D., Hydra. It all goes.
Lugo, as we might expect, isn't so clear-headed. His heroes aren't
Who is this actor? He looks so familiar.
Captain America. They're
Rocky, Scarface, all the guys from The Godfather, they all started out with nothing and built their way to perfection.
No, wait. Wahlberg. No.
Lugo is obsessed with the American
I said it before you wrote it. I'm so good.
dream, with getting and becoming more. And when he takes on a new client who has more, he sees an opportunity. Emboldened by a self-help grifter one level above Lugo's own grift, Daniel concocts a plan to kidnap his new client, a Jewish Colombian immigrant named Victor Kershaw, and force him to hand over all his assets. Lugo believes that the theft will make America a better place because Kershaw, by virtue of his place of birth and flabby middle-aged body, doesn't deserve what he's achieved.
Not the same guy.
Daniel doesn't just want what Victor has.
I want you not to have it.
Neither of our protagonists are alone in their endeavor, though. Steve Rogers is aided by Sam Wilson, a former U.S. Air Force pararescue soldier who now helps veterans suffering from PTSD. When Rogers has to go on the run from S.H.I.E.L.D. and lay low, Wilson takes him in and helps him uncover the truth about Project Insight. In both the movies and the comics, Sam will eventually succeed Steve as Captain America, though without...
Steve is not chemically induced, though, right? He's just a regular dude that can throw a shield pretty fast.
the aid of the super soldier serum
pretty strong?
that gave Steve his powers.
Did he just answer my question?
Sam will eventually succeed Steve as Captain America, though without the aid of the super soldier serum that gave Steve his powers. Someone who does have a super soldier serum is Adrian Doorbal, Daniel Lugo's primary accomplice.
That is so funny how they're the same
jobs for
actor.
other people and frustrated after being left impotent from steroid use, he takes part in Lugo's scheme partially to be able to afford an experimental drug that can restore his vitality. Adrian also sees Lugo as a true friend. someone who's helped him achieve his fitness goals and therefore his life goals. Both Adrian and Sam are happy to follow their friends on their quests because they trust that the person they're following is doing the right thing.
That
But
is
Anthony
so
Mackie
funny.
isn't the only one on the journey. Captain America is also aided by the Black Widow. At this point in the overall Marvel series, we know that Natasha Romanoff, originally from Russia,
Natasha?
was an assassin who joined S.H.I.E.L.D. rather than be killed by them, and has spent her time since helping to save the world and make up for her past. When S.H.I.E.L.D. director Nick Fury becomes suspicious of Project Insight's true purpose, he sends her with Captain America to the hijacked satellite launch
What's up, Michael?
with orders to download the data stored on its computers, while
Wait, Falcon was they chemically induced it? Really?
Rogers deals with the terrorists. By the end of the movie, she trades the lies and deceptions from her life as a spy for the truth, leaking the details of S.H.I.E.L.D.'s true history and testifying before the United States Senate. In Pain and Gain, Daniel Lugo is also joined by Serena Luminita, a stripper who is
Guys, I just winked at Mia, and she winked back.
unwittingly recruited into the gang when Lugo convinces her he's a music video director looking to cast her. Originally from Romania, she traveled illegally to the United States after a failed beauty pageant career in the hopes that she could achieve her own American dream of following in the footsteps of Julia Roberts' character from Pretty Woman. When she eventually catches on that Lugo isn't really a music video director, he pivots and tells her that he's actually an undercover CIA agent, and that the questionable equipment he's obtained for his scheme is government issue. She believes him and wholeheartedly goes along with his plan, saying that she'd die for her adopted country. And the task that Daniel gives her is to watch over the fourth member of
Did any of you guys watch this movie? Ren, you said you watched. Is it good? I mean, they have like A-list actors on here.
Paul Doyle. During a stint in prison prompted by a cocaine-fueled Christmas burglary, Doyle became a born-again Christian and dedicated himself to his mission, protecting all of God's creatures by doing great violence to the rest of God's creatures. Doyle's moral center makes him initially resistant to Lugo's scheme, but his violent nature rears its head, making it apparent that he's not quite the reformed man he claims to be, and he agrees to go along with the plan as his other alternatives are quickly diminishing.
I mean, I feel like this is the beginning of their like heightened career of all of these actors.
Unfortunately, Doyle is easily manipulated, and after the gang kidnaps Kershaw, Doyle strikes up a friendship with him in the hopes of eventually converting him to Christianity. So with Doyle potentially becoming the weak link in the chain, Lugo sends Serena to keep an eye on him, with her believing that he's another CIA agent. But after the initial success of their operation, Doyle relapses. Back on drugs and desperate for cash, he attempts to rob an armored car, losing a toe in the process. Doyle's analog in the world of Captain America is the titular Winter Soldier, Bucky Barnes. Originally a pre-war friend of Steve's, Bucky seemingly died in the first Captain America movie, only to be revealed as a shadowy assassin working for the Nazi offshoot Hydra after being cryogenically frozen and brainwashed. Like Doyle, Bucky's life has been shaped by his time spent away from society, and like Doyle, he's driven by his mission and easily coerced into following people he shouldn't. Bucky also relapses over the course of the movie, but rather than being pressured into doing evil, Bucky starts to remember doing good. Prompted by his interactions with Captain America, Bucky slowly starts to return to his old self, shedding some of the Hydra programming that turned him into a killer. And while he doesn't completely reform during the movie, his last action before disappearing is to save his friend's life, proving that there's still something left of Cap's old buddy within the Winter Soldier. But Bucky's not the only opposition.
You know, I
that
didn't
Steve
really
faces,
invest
as he
in
and his
watching
allies
all
are
of the
also
Captain America movies, which I probably should.
opposed by the forces of Hydra, who are revealed to have been a part of S.H.I.E.L.D. since the beginning, using it as a cover to push the world towards a future that is under their control. Nick Fury, a mainstay in the MCU and the face of S.H.I.E.L.D., is seemingly assassinated after he gets too close to uncovering the truth about the organizations and its real plans. And rather than a sprawling extra-governmental agency, the slightly less heroic Sun Jim gang only have to contend with retired private detective Ed Dubois III. When the police refuse to believe Victor Kershaw's outlandish story about his kidnapping and torture at the hands of a gang of bodybuilders, he contacts Ed, who agrees to take his case, stating that what they did to Victor is un-American. During the movie, Ed fruitlessly tries to get
Is
the
that
police
what's
to
his
take action
name?
against the gang,
Keaton?
but because they don't want to be seen as sympathetic to immigrants like Kershaw, Lugo and his accomplices are left to their own devices until they accidentally murder a white businessman and his girlfriend, at which point the police spare no expense in hunting them down, because that's the kind of world this is. And that's something else to compare between these two movies. The worlds
that Ed
they
Helms?
existed. Both films have a heavy emphasis on things like the American dream or common American arguments like freedom versus security, but they each have very different things to say.
I knew that.
Pain and Gain, like a lot of Michael Bay's movies, takes
Ed
place on a
Harris?
nasty little planet called Earth. It's a place where being a protagonist doesn't necessarily make you a hero, where everyone is always one snide remark away from starting a fight, and even the victims are rude assholes. This is a world where men line up to be rapists.
Who wants to volunteer to be a rapist?
Oh my god!
Where women are either supermodels
It's that guy from The Sweet Life of Zack and
or objects
Cody.
of scorn, where impersonating a police officer
It's
is
that
as simple
guy.
as saying you want to
Shock, incapacitate, and imprison our fellow man.
This is a greedy, aggressive, misanthropic world, but it's one where the American dream can only be achieved
Is this
by
like...
discarding
Yeah, this is
those
definitely
dreams.
rated R.
Ed Dubois, the only character in the movie who actually seems to have achieved his American dream, did so by listening to his wife, retiring from the police force, by helping someone even when their behavior makes them unlikable, and by not making them feel small when he does. Ed is probably the closest thing the movie has to an actual Captain America character in terms of representing the best of a person's potential, but the actual world Steve Rogers has to contend with is pretty different. The Winter Soldier takes place in a
Okay, I'm gonna press pause on here because it's kind of crazy that how people come up with these ideas of comparisons. I mean, like, this guy made a full 16-minute video of just a fun movie comparison. I love that. Like, I absolutely love that. People, like, just... Like, it's just an idea, and it's like, if you guys are interested, watch it. If you're not interested, like, it's not for you. A great suggestion, Ren. Who the hell? Like I should have prepared my own Middle Eastern food. I feel like, should I finish it? You want me to
world
finish
where
it?
any problem can be solved by killing the right people. Violence and death are so casual here that they barely interrupt discussion about the office dating pool.
You wanna
and
finish
where
it?
beating
Okay.
someone unconscious with a metal disc is played as effortlessly cool compared to Pain and Gain, where it's as much a detriment to the person doing it as the victim. In Pain and Gain, it takes committed,
Oh,
concerted
shit.
effort to end
Wait.
a person's life.
No.
Or, in the case of a freak accident, dealing with that death becomes the killer's sole focus. In Captain America, not only is killing people the world's most effective problem-solving strategy, the act of violence itself is rewarded by the universe. When Steve encounters the leader of the terrorist group holding S.H.I.E.L.'s ship hostage, he doesn't dispatch him quickly and efficiently like he did with the nameless goons, but instead gives in to his taunts and engages in a macho-posturing fistfight, and in doing so, accidentally discovers Black Widow accessing the ship's files, a part of the mission he wasn't supposed to be aware of. Beyond the application of violence, the world of the Winter Soldier is also subtly just as materialistic as the world of Pain and Gain, where Pain and Gain makes the acquisition of wealth and material possessions an explicit goal of the characters and the cause of their downfall. Captain America makes it more subtle and more personal.
Dude,
After spending
did you
70
not have
years
cramps?
frozen in Arctic ice, Steve Rogers has a lot to catch up on and keeps a notebook with a list of those things, mostly suggested by the people he interacts with on a daily basis, so S.H.I.E.L.D. operatives. And while there are a couple of major historical events in there like the moon landing and the rise and fall of the Berlin Wall, the vast majority of it is pop culture ephemera. Star Wars is more important than the civil rights movement. Disco had more influence on American life than 9/11. Steve is concerned about Project Insight being an overreach in US military power, but the guy was frozen in February 1945. He might not even know that his country nuked Japan 6 months after he basically died to keep weapons of mass destruction from being used. And while it's likely that he was briefed on a lot of these things in the 2 years since he joined the modern world, this is a movie, and these are the things that the filmmakers decided to show as important for Steve to be told about. In fact, they're so important that his list was localized for 11 different countries to make sure that the things Steve would value were the same things the audience valued, no matter where in the world.
Oh, interesting. Interesting.
World they were, and the things that Steve Rogers, America's best guy, has been instructed to value the most are I Love Lucy and Apple computers, and nothing bad has ever happened. And if this seems sort of sinister that Captain America is being deliberately kept away from learning the darker parts of history, it is. And it's not just because it turns out that S.H.I.E.L.D. has been, and always was a legitimate front for a Nazi plan to destabilize and take over the world. It's because in this world, all the bad things that have happened during the 20th century turn out to be the actions of a single group of nefarious evildoers that, strangely enough, can be safely and effectively eliminated just by crashing an aircraft into a building. Again, this is a world where any issue can be solved by killing the right people. A world where the actions of a seemingly
100%.
infinitely wealthy extra-governmental military agency are accepted as cool and good by not only Captain America, but by every other person involved, right up until they find out the people they're doing those things for.
Yeah, but like, even though they're the same writers, but like, who would have thought that like the plots would have been nearly the same?
Or have the wrong kind of secret handshake. It's clear that Marcus and McFeely have some interesting things to say about America and the American dream, whether those words are being filtered through the squeaky clean Marvel machine or the manic misanthropic energy of Michael Bay. One movie shows greedy, vain people who are products of a greedy, vain world and commit heinous actions as a result. The other shows people who are noble, selfless, trying to do the right thing in a world where violence is always the right answer, and the difference between a good act and an evil one could be as simple as the logo someone wears while they're doing it. But while the versions of America presented in each movie are focused through very specific lenses and have a lot of differences, they're both united by a belief that no matter what the problems with the world are, it's possible for people to do good in spite of them, to demonstrate compassion, the tenacity to stand up to corrupt authority, and a willingness to listen to others. In the years since Pain and Gain and their stint at Marvel, Marcus and McFeely have also done another film with
I wonder how long it took him to make this video.
similarities to The Winter Soldier 2022's The Gray Man, co-written with Winter Soldier co-director Joe Russo. This movie follows a CIA operative who has to go on the run with a fellow agent after recovering information that points to the organization being infiltrated by the agents of a sinister shadow government and is hounded by a dangerous mercenary hired by his own bosses to kill him. You've heard this before. And while this movie doesn't really deal with the same themes as the other ones we've taken a look at, it does feature an interesting performance from Chris Evans, who plays a version of the Winter Soldier that's basically the guy that Daniel Lugo thinks he is, and a protagonist character played by Ryan Gosling, who was recruited from prison after being incarcerated for a crime he committed in 1995.
Oh,
which is
I
where
saw
we
this
meet
movie.
Lugo at the end of Pain and Gain. So although it's not as engaging as either Pain and Gain or The Winter Soldier, The Gray Man does make an interesting third act to a very unconventional trilogy from Christopher Marcus and Stephen McFeely. But
Ryan
those guys
Gosling
aren't
is
the only
such an
ones
amazing
involved
actor.
with Pain and Gain, and Michael Bay's big, greasy fingerprints are all over the movie. For him, the movie feels like an homage to the Coen brothers, whose actors Bay has regularly cast for his own projects for years. And Bay's other movies have a lot to talk about as well, particularly the Transformers series. Despite their critical pounding, Michael Bay's Transformers movies made more than $4 billion at the box office over their decade-long run. He's the fourth highest grossing director of all time, behind Peter Jackson, the Russo brothers, and Steven Spielberg, who have all made movies that people still talk about years or decades after their release. For better or worse, his films resonate with people. They take the part of the audience that's more Daniel...
And yet they're remaking all the Transformers movies, which is nuts. Oh yeah, Gray Man was great.
than Steve Rogers and reflected back at them, using it to make a shitload of money. I consider Pain and Gain to be a sort of Rosetta Stone for Bay's movies, something that, as a more straightforwardly satirical dark comedy, doesn't require the heroes to be good people or the world to be worth saving. And I think that, intentionally or not, the outlook that the movie presents is something that's in a lot of Bay's other films as well, particularly the Transformers series. But that's way beyond the scope of this video, so for now I'll just say that there may be more to Michael Bay than meets the eye, and there's a lot that meets the eye.
That was genius. That was a good one. That was really nice. That was a good twist. Nice. Very nice. Bayformer is being unintentionally anti-imperialist and anti-capitalist is so funny. 40. Duran, I'm not watching 40 minutes.
カードボット隊は移動基地バトルコンボイを完成させたエネルギーの補給整備指令基地としての役割を果たす移動基地バトルコンボイ
Transformers is a weird franchise. What started in 1984 as a line of repackaged and recontextualized Japanese toys has endured for nearly
Oh my god, it started as a Japanese toy? No way.
40 years as a staple of the toy aisle and the TV screen. And while the toys themselves certainly play a part in that success, it's that TV presence, the franchise's narratives, that I think really guaranteed its staying power. Because before we ever met the likes of Optimus Prime and Bumblebee for the first time on television or in comic books, the Transformers...
No, and I would... Not something I'd overtake... I would overtake or, like, overthink or take seriously, but, like, it's something to think about. Like, these are the type of people that on YouTube that makes you think even more outside of the box.
Already failed once. In 1983, a year before the Transformers, as we know,
If everyone's willing to watch the 40 minutes,
toy company Takara attempted to sell
let's
their
do it.
transforming robot toys in North America as Diachron, robot cars of the future. It didn't take off. The toys were the same, but with uninspiring names like DK1, DK2, and DK3, there was no reason to care. So what was it that made Transformers different? Well, the characters. With the help of Marvel Comics writers who gave a smorgasbord of disparate Japanese toys, unique identities, and backstories,
Decepticon.
Microchange MC04 Car 03 Volkswagen became the plucky scout Bumblebee. Microchange Gun Robo Walther P-38 Grey-Type became the evil tyrant Megatron, and Diaclone Real and Robo Car Robot Battle Convoy
Alright,
became
Matt.
the valiant
Catch you
Autobot
later.
leader, Optimus Prime. And thanks to the US government rolling back regulations that would previously have prevented toy companies from creating half-hour toy commercials disguised as entertainment, these evocative characters could use their stories to latch onto the hearts and minds of children around the world and ensure toy sales for decades to come. But those
For
decades of
sure.
success weren't just the result of sticking to formula. When the transforming car robots of the 1980s began to grow stale, the 90s ushered in the
Did you guys have Transformers toys? I don't think I bought Transformers toys, but I think they were definitely part of the McDonald's Happy Meal. And then, of course, the Michael Bay movies that came out. But, like, it never really, like... You know, and I did watch the shows as well. But it never really, like, caught me, you know? Never really, like, grabbed my attention.
Beast Wars, with animals tearing
Even the
themselves
Cheetah
apart
one was
to
pretty
reveal
cool.
hidden robots within, sometimes even using their own internal organs as weapons. And when the gross-out fad of the 90s faded and shows like Pokemon and Dragon Ball Z sparked the anime boom,
Yup.
the franchise returned to its Japanese roots with the gimmick-laden Unicron trilogy. So the brand stayed consistently popular enough that in 2003, the first live-action Transformers movie was announced. This was a movie made during the pre-MCU era of film adaptations, back when the X-Men needed to be clad in black leather, and any resemblance Batman had to the creature he's named after required a realistic justification. The first Transformers movie was made at a time when filmmakers wanted to fix the property they were adapting rather than just embracing what made it popular in the first place. But irreverence isn't always a bad thing.
By the way, the Dark Knight trilogy can never be topped. Did you guys say that you guys liked the Robert Pattinson one? You never really caught into Transformers? You had tons of them? Yeah.
Despite Christopher Nolan's decision to remove a lot of the more fantastical elements from Batman's comic mythology, the Dark Knight trilogy is one of the most popular versions of
He was also a racist man. Never really like took into effect he never really cared about the cultural appropriation of Arabs.
Character out there. And for all of J.J. Abrams' Star Wars fanboyism, the sequel trilogy doesn't appear to have the staying power of either of its predecessors. So when Michael Bay, who initially dismissed the film as a stupid toy movie, was hired to direct, irreverence for the franchise was all but guaranteed. And regardless of the movie's feelings about the franchise it was a part of, it was a hit. Bay stayed on to direct 4 more sequels, and under his supervision, the film series grossed over $4 billion at the box office. And that's not even counting the toys the movie was designed to advertise in the first place. But the critics hated these movies. Fans hated these movies.
Ren, you're
By
hilarious.
all rights, the series should have petered out after the one with the testicles, but it didn't. Somehow, people kept coming back. Even the reboot-inducing 5th installment made nearly 3 times its significant budget back, grossing over $600 million worldwide. So, with success like that, is it possible there's more to these movies than meets the eye? I think so. Over the years, I've grown to really like Michael Bay's Transformers movies. I was 18 when the first one came out, so I was definitely in the intended demographic
he's
of guys
old.
who like to see robots beat the shit out of each other. But by the time Revenge of the Fallen came out, I could tell there was definitely something going on with the series. That movie, which was released in 2009, was one of several films that summer that were made during the Writers Guild strike in 2007 and 2008. So instead of having a completed script, a 30-page outline of the movie was written before the strike started to give the rest of the crew some idea of what was going to be in the movie, and then when the strike ended, a first draft screenplay was hammered out in the 3 months left before filming. There was no time for notes or revisions, no time to second-guess the choices that were being made, and this no-thoughts, head-empty, vibes-based filmmaking process resulted in a movie that was not only more violent and more debauched than its predecessor, it also exceeded its box office take by over $100 million. Whatever primal lizard brain reaction the movie unlocked in its audience had compensated for the rough edges of the production, and the rest of the series followed its example. And without the excuse of the
Being
writer's
18
strike,
and
the
being
deliberate
13 are
choices of 2011's
very
Dark of the
different
Moon
worlds.
really stood out to me. In that movie, there's a scene where, after Optimus Prime allows the Decepticons to blow up Chicago in order to teach humanity a lesson about not being mean to him, the heroic Autobot leader returns to the battlefield and says,
"We will kill them all,"
while a sound-alike Terminator theme plays in the background and a group of heavily weaponized NASCAR Autobots tear a defeated enemy limb from limb. And I was sitting there in the theater thinking, was Optimus Prime evil? The idea stuck with me. As I geared up to go to film school, I spent my evenings practicing filmmaking
He went to
by
film
indulging this
school?
idea, by creating a Transformers story where the lines between Autobot and Decepticon were blurred and Optimus Prime had become corrupted by the all-consuming forces that sparked the war in the first place. I never finished it, but it wasn't very good anyway, and there's only so much epic storytelling you can do with a bunch of action figures on the living room carpet, but the fact that Transformers 3 left enough of an impact on me to even attempt it means that I must have gotten something from the movie. And eventually, I learned that other people had too. In dark corners of dying web forums, people began to talk about the Transformers movies. Not dismissively or ironically, but actually trying to figure out if there was something worthwhile to be gleaned from the trashiest of big-budget Hollywood
Wait,
trash.
what is this?
So when Michael Bay made 2 more Transformers movies,
wow,
I was prepared. I went in ready to really consciously read these movies in a way that I hadn't with the first 3, and I wasn't disappointed. Now, I don't think this is the correct interpretation of these movies. I don't think the hodgepodge of plot holes and character inconsistencies that make up Michael Bay's Transformers series combine to create some secretly genius hidden story, but I do think that art says things about us. The things we engage with are reflective of who we are. The things we find heroic, the things we find villainous, the way we treat people around us are all up there on the screen. And when we give those reflections $4 billion, that says something about us, intentionally or not. So, who are we in these movies? Let's start by looking at our protagonists.
I miss
First, we
Shia
have
LaBeouf.
Sam Witwicky. When we first meet him, he's a high school student who's trying to scrounge together enough money to buy his first car. He's not a gearhead, and he doesn't seem to see the car as a step towards adult freedom. Instead, he sees a car as a way to impress other teenagers, specifically girls, and is willing to sell his family's history to do so. Sam's also not particularly smart or athletic. He has to beg his teacher for a decent grade after using a class project to auction his family heirlooms, and he apparently infamously failed at trying out for the high school football team. Sam doesn't seem to have a lot of friends either, despite his quick wit and sense of humor. He has one, who he tolerates right up until there's an opportunity to replace him with his high school crush, Michaela Baines.
Also, can we just talk about how, the high school kids, back in the day when they made movies, it's just the way they made the girls dress is so crazy.
Sam actually manages to coerce
so
this girl
provocative,
into his
it's
car.
so
He
nuts.
doesn't bother trying to actually get to know her, and he actually feels hurt when she doesn't seem to know him, despite them potentially never having any direct interactions before now. He's also surprised when she demonstrates she has hidden skills beyond the vapid, shallow image that Sam and the other high school guys have created for her. And when you think of Michaela that way, that she's intentionally dumbing herself down and hiding her proficiency in order to please other people's expectations, maybe it's not that surprising that she's the character who's named after the director. But unfortunately, Michaela's not the protagonist of the movie. Sam is. He's the everyman, the audience surrogate, and he's a greedy, self-absorbed child who expects to be rewarded seemingly for just existing. But this is Sam at the start of the first movie. Obviously, as the story progresses, he learns and grows and overcomes those flaws. Right? Well, not really. His relationship with Michaela never progresses beyond his surface-level attraction to her, and the only thing they really have
the
in
worst
common
thing the
is a
girls
shared
would wear was a
experience with
spaghetti
transforming
strap.
alien robots. And when it comes to Sam's overall arc in the movie, he sort of does end up being rewarded just for existing. When the military brings the movie's MacGuffin, a magical...
I don't know
alien
which Transformers it was, but I think my cousin and I decided to watch one of them, and it was the biggest joke we've ever watched.
cube into a crowded city to hide it from the Decepticons, Sam acts as the cube's meat shield, and for that is heralded as a hero by Optimus Prime. Sam's status as an important piece of meat is made more explicit in the second movie, where a fragment of the destroyed cube brain blasts him and uses him as a temporary storage device for the Transformers wiki. Once again, his importance isn't due to any of his own achievements, he just happens to be a container for the movie's plot device. His relationship status isn't much better. With Sam about to go to college 2 years after the events of the first movie, Michaela wants to hear him say that he loves her as a sign of commitment to their relationship while he's away. He doesn't. Instead, he argues semantics and puts the responsibility on her before weaseling out of it. And it's not like Sam is incapable of expressing love. In the scene immediately prior, he tells the alien robot living in his garage that he loves it without a second thought. Eventually, he does reciprocate Michaela's feelings, but only after an adrenaline-fueled resurrection following a trip to robot heaven where he's told what a special boy he is. Michaela dumps him shortly after, and Sam starts dating Carly, no last name, in time for the third movie. Their relationship is directly tied to Sam's need to be showered with praise for doing nothing, and it begins right after he receives a medal from President Obama to thank him for getting killed in the desert.
Obama?
But despite this reward, nobody else seems to care. In Dark of the Moon, Sam is having trouble finding a job after graduating college, and he feels emasculated by having to live off his girlfriend's paycheck. This problem is entirely of Sam's own making, though. He applies to random Fortune 500 companies, expecting to be hired based largely on his receiving a medal for actions that are conveniently classified and don't require him to explain what it was he actually did that was so important. When he finally does get a job in the mailroom of a telecommunications and aerospace company, he finds it humiliating. He desperately wants to be more than just a messenger.
Is that the voice of Naruto?
He finds it humiliating. He desperately wants to be more than just...
I think that's the voice of Naruto. And then there's Shy.
A messenger, despite several other characters in the movie reminding him that he hasn't actually done anything to earn the importance he thinks he should have, and his arc in the movie is about coming to terms with that. Now, I don't think anyone was coming to see these movies because Sam's arc really resonated with them, but he is sort of a wish fulfillment character. He gets the robot car, he gets the girl, he gets to go to discernible traits of his own, because then he becomes less universal. And maybe that's one of the reasons why he stopped appearing in the series after the third movie. Because once the extent of his vapidity is revealed and examined, the connection is broken. Criticism of Sam becomes criticism of the audience, and nobody wants to be told that they wasted their lives and are unemployable because they spent too much time watching Transformers movies. So with Sam's departure, a new protagonist is required for the fourth film. Enter Cade Yeager. Unlike Sam, Cade isn't an everyman. He's a very specific man. Whereas Sam wants a car for reasons vague enough for the audience to fill in the blanks, Cade buys an old truck specifically to support his failing business. Whereas Sam is of nebulous and variable intelligence and athletic ability, Cade is explicitly a mechanical savant and former high school football player. And whereas Sam has a general wit and affability that's endearing but not threatening, Cade is an acerbic Texan who prefers subordinates to friends and threatens violence whenever he doesn't get his way. All of Sam's traits have been passed to Cade's sole employee at his failing robotics company, Lucas Flannery, though not without embellishment. Lucas is dumber, quippier, and more lecherous than Sam, and the capstone of the movie's first act is his grisly death at the hands of...
Oh my god, how many... Was it 3? How many Transformers movies was he fully in?
Villain. The series is done trying to cater to Sam's vague 18 to 35-year-old male and has laser focused on what kind of person it thinks enjoys these movies. And it's not a very flattering portrait.
3, right?
Over the course of the movie, Cade is called out as a bad father, a bad businessman, a racist, potentially a proponent of slavery.
Any idea of yours is mine. Any thought you have, I own it. So basically, I own you.
I don't think you can...
Hello?
Own someone. That was like a while ago, even in Texas.
The infamous scene where his teenage daughter's adult boyfriend
with Shia LaBeouf?
her detailing why it's okay for him to sleep with a child is in the movie to set up an arc where Cade decides it's okay for this man to be with his daughter as long...
What is happening? I have signal.
thanks to his knightly qualities, but because Excalibur turns out to be a Transformer artifact, it's judging him by their standards, which are quite different from ours. So what are their standards? The Transformer Society presented in the movies is pretty interesting and becomes more complex as the series goes on, intentionally or not.
Yeah,
Our
3.
first encounter with them is the booming narration of Optimus Prime at the start of the first film as he relates a pseudo-biblical creation myth about a magical cube of unknown origin that brought his people to life. There was apparently a war to control this Allspark cube's power, a struggle between good and evil, with the war consuming their planet and the Allspark being lost to the far reaches of space, eventually winding up on the unknown planet Earth. At the end of the movie, we learn that this narration is part of a broadcast to other Autobots, inviting them to take refuge on the planet after being scattered throughout the stars. And there's something kind of cagey about this. Optimus uses a lot of passive voice during his speech, being very careful
And
to
then,
avoid mentioning who exactly was responsible
Optimus
for his
Prime.
planet's woes. If it was the Decepticons, he could come right out and say
Was
it.
James
Thus,
Earl
he's
Jones
vague
Optimus
enough that
Prime?
Any humans listening in on his outgoing broadcast would assume that's who he's talking about, but is careful to avoid confirming it outright in case anyone else listening might have more information. We also know that Optimus isn't above misleading humans to get what he wants. When he first meets Sam and Michaela, he shows them a holographic representation of the planet Cybertron, covered in acrid rivers of fire and spiky, evil-looking towers under Megatron's rule. But when we actually see Cybertron in the third and fifth movies, it looks nothing like this. Obviously, he never expected humans to actually see what the place looks like for themselves, so he came up with something that made his plight seem more sympathetic to them. He also let slip an interesting detail, that Cybertron wasn't just a planet, it was an empire that he was in charge of. Optimus claims it was peaceful and just, but an emperor would have no reason to say otherwise. We never learn who Optimus Prime, whose name roughly translates to first best, actually ruled over, or maybe were worshipped by, since Optimus's predecessor Sentinel Prime later says that they were considered gods, but based on later comments that Earth is the only planet in the universe that will let Optimus call it home, it seems that the former subordinate states of the Cybertron Empire didn't weep for its collapse.
You can only call it your home
betrayed them,
if you become a
if
superhero.
that's what happened. Optimus claims that his brother Megatron started the war, but that's not true either, and neither is Earth's supposed unfamiliarity to the Transformers. In Revenge of the Fallen, we learn that the Transformers first came to Earth 19,000 years earlier in order to build a machine that could harvest the energy of the planet's star. The Primes, the leaders of Cybertron, had a rule that they wouldn't use the solar harvester in a star system that contained life. After all, emperors need an empire to rule over. But for some reason, one of the Primes was intent on using it anyway, so a battle broke out between those who wanted to use the machine on Earth and those who didn't. The leader of the faction who wanted to use the machine was exiled, stripped of his rank, and renamed the Fallen, the first Decepticon. This seems to be the actual inception of the war between the Autobots and the Decepticons, with Optimus and Megatron, the last descendants of the Primes, not getting involved until much later. And when they did, Optimus obviously joined the Autobots and took his place in line for the throne, while Megatron entered the service of the Fallen, who he believed could activate the dormant solar harvester on Earth, since the Allspark by this point had mysteriously gone missing. But the Fallen was a vengeance-driven social pariah.
So it says, learning to love Michael Bay's Transformers
Megatron was
movies. I'm
steadfast
learning.
in his desire to heal Cybertron and restore the planet's decimated
I'm
population.
loving.
So he came up with a backup plan. Having learned about Earth's human population from the Fallen, Megatron contacted the current living Emperor, Sentinel Prime, and made a deal with him to end the war. With Cybertron's population devastated, the Transformers needed labor to help rebuild. Megatron knew of a planet with a cheap and plentiful source of workers, and Sentinel Prime had developed space bridge pillars that would allow them to move Cybertron into the planet's orbit for easy collection. And for some reason, after talking to Megatron, Sentinel Prime was perfectly willing to strip Earth of its resources, while his predecessors weren't. So while the Fallen watched from his exile on a moon of Saturn, Megatron made his way to Earth to rendezvous with his two partners, only for everything to go wrong.
Alright, fellas.
Megatron was seemingly thrown off course by the Earth's gravitational field, almost attacked by the planet itself, and crashed into icy Arctic waters, where he laid until he was discovered by Sam Witwicky's explorer ancestor in 1897.
I will wait 2 more minutes.
Sentinel
We'll hit
Prime was
halfway
captured when he
point.
tried to leave Cybertron and drifted through space for thousands of years, only crashing into Earth's moon in 1961. And the Fallen remained trapped in exile. So, what was Optimus doing during all of this? As we learn in Age of Extinction, before he became Emperor of Cybertron, Optimus served as a knight, commanding a prison ship on his crusades that would eventually be commandeered by the bounty hunter Lockdown. Among the ship's weapons were
bone grinders, brain blinders, flesh peelers, chromosomal inverters, catatonic sludge, black hole trapdoors, and of course radiation.
Making his vessel pretty formidable. Other Cybertronian knights included the monstrous Dinobots, as well as Dragonstorm, a massive three-headed dragon who is the combined form of such heroic-sounding warriors as Dragonicus, Stormrain, Steelbane, and Scolatron. What Optimus and the other knights did on their crusades is largely unknown, but presumably they worked to expand the Cybertron Empire.
I'm actually falling asleep
Get
low-key.
a first-hand glimpse of how that might have worked via their interactions with Earth. The first knights to arrive on the planet were the component members of Dragonstorm, who were hiding a powerful staff from Quintessa.
I know, I got a little lost too.
Okay,
it's a lot.
So it turns out
watching something that's 40 minutes is crazy. One more minute.
Allspark's origin isn't as unknown as we'd been led to believe. In the film series, there are 3 different entities involved in the creation of the Transformers. There's the Allspark, which acts as a sort of
I feel like it too. I also feel like this story kind of reminds me of like the Kingdom Hearts, like with Xehanort's issue, with Xehanort's story. It's just like a lot.
Manufacturing plant, and it has the ability to bring dead machines to life. Then there's Quintessa, who has the ability to channel life energy rather than just to disperse it. And
The
is
final
presumably
10
the one who
minutes?
gave the Allspark its power in the first place. But Quintessa herself is still a machine, and likely was created by a mysterious alien race that terraformed ancient worlds, including Earth, to produce a harvestable, molecularly unstable metal that was used to create the original Transformer. Extract an apology. And to make himself feel better, Optimus does what any level-headed Star Emperor would do. He blasts off into space to find and kill God.
Okay.
He doesn't make it. He does get trapped in destitute Cybertron's orbit, though, and crash lands right on Quintessa's doorstep, which is where the most important revelation of the series happens. One that's not just about the Transformers, but about humans, too. We've talked a bit about the protagonists, Sam and Cade, and while they definitely suck as human beings in their own unique ways, they're not the only people on Earth. Humans in these movies are crass, disrespectful, racist, misogynistic, pedophilic, buffoonish, greedy. Women who display skill and cunning greater than their male counterparts are still treated as objects by the men around them. Weapons and toys are shown to be indistinguishable from one another, and the only people shown as deserving sympathy are the ones who are destined for the robot battlefield slaughterhouse.
Damn.
Humanity has even taken to using metal gears to hunt children in the streets. But why is this?
Yep.
Why is humanity so awful? Why?
When was this made? With him saying that? A year ago? Damn.
Why do the movies treat us like we're fleas on the devil's asshole? Well, it's because we at a world that accurately depicts what humans crave, that wants to be ruled by violent, sadistic, imperialistic Autobots, must be inherently evil. So, Optimus Prime makes his first sensible choice in thousands of years and vows to destroy the Earth. And here's the thing, Megatron already knows this. Megatron's hatred of humanity, the constant references to us being insects and parasites. It's true, when the Earth's magnetic field shot Megatron down, it's because Unicron knew Megatron was coming to kill him. When the Fallen wanted to destroy the Sun, it's because he knew it would also kill Unicron. Sentinel Prime wanted to use Unicron's spawn to rebuild his planet because what other good could we possibly do? And for the briefest moment, Optimus Prime is actually good. He's fighting to save the universe from the evil of humanity and its father, the robot Space Devil. But then he changes back. Bumblebee promises to kill himself for Optimus, and suddenly Prime remembers why he's there. Earth is the only remaining world in the Cybertron Empire, and this Emperor is gonna fight to save it, even if it is literally Satan. And Planet Hell survives. Kind of. Cybertron tears up a bunch of continents, and Unicron is still in the process of busting out of the world's surface, but Optimus manages to actually finish what Megatron and Sentinel Prime started. Cybertron brought to Earth, and human slave labor happily helping to rebuild it. Megatron might have been defeated again, but I don't think he would mind, other than the Unicron stuff. The first time this happened, he just stopped fighting when he thought Cybertron would be saved. There's also a hopeful post-credits tease that reveals that Quintessa, now disguised as a human, is still trying to kill the robot devil before he destroys the entire universe. But unfortunately, we never find out whether or not that happened. After the 5th movie in the series, Michael Bay stepped away from the franchise that he'd been shepherding for 10 years, and a year later, the Bumblebee soft reboot prequel was released, and it really disappointed me. It was an okay movie, I guess, and I guess...
Wait, did Michael Bay's not... Michael Bay, is he directing the new Transformers movies?
You would even call it good if you consider these ones to be evil, but aside from some weird Shape of Water subtext and a single moment where Bumblebee defaulted to his murderous basic functions, it wasn't anywhere near as disgusting or interesting as the Bay movies. And aside from the thematic and tonal differences, the latest entry, Rise of the Beasts, has a treatment of Unicron that is completely incompatible with what came before. Basically saying without saying that it's moved on from Bay's version of the world, and now it's time for other creative voices to continue the story along another path. Big franchises like this rarely get a chance to be as eccentric and somehow personal as the Transformers movies were. These movies were made by a weird, misanthropic guy who makes the biggest action schlock movie product in the world and seemingly resents every second of it. If you hate the Transformers movies, I don't blame you. They're not pleasant movies, but it's so rare that movies like this generate any emotion, and I think exploring
in the new Transformers, Bumblebee actually speaks, and I think I saw an interview where the older generation had, like, they grew up with Bumblebee speaking, but like our generation, we grew up with Bumblebee not speaking. So it's kind of interesting to see how the new movies will come out. Unless they already came out. I'm so out of date. Honestly, today was just like a, hey, I'm here, I'm gonna stream day, because I had to visit a friend impromptu. But tomorrow we will be continuing with Kingdom Hearts, and I have to make shorts. I have to make shorts for my channel. It's dry. It's dry right now. I have to come up with my ideas. For shorts. Yeah. I didn't know that either. I thought Bumblebee didn't speak at all. Oh, it's an animated movie. Yeah, you're right. It's not live action. Is it out yet? I think it's out, right? Maybe we should all do our homework with that. Anyways, guys, we'll be back tomorrow. And I hope to see you guys tomorrow. I was literally falling asleep. It was kind of funny. Not that the 40 minutes was boring. I think it just, the tired hit me. Anyways, see you tomorrow, and make sure to drink some water. Get your 8 hours of sleep. I know I should. And yeah, much love, guys. See you tomorrow.